You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right. Hey, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Hope you had a great family day yesterday. It was great for me. I had a great weekend all together. I had a couple of friends treat my wife and myself to a special Valentine's Day, post-Valentine's, but still, we had a very great, relaxing day, and thanks to those that made it happen. We really appreciate that. And Dave and Nick. So thanks again. We were able to really enjoy the day, enjoy one another's company, and relax, which is not something we do a lot of the time, most of the time ever. So it was really great, and thank you for that. And so hopefully all y'all were able to have a good weekend as well, as it extended into Monday, and that's why we didn't have a show yesterday on Family Day. And hopefully you were able to spend that with your family and make the most of it and have an enjoyable weekend or day. And we're live this morning on our social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube. So facebook.com/Sudbury News. youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, and all of that stuff on our social medias. But also make sure to comment, because it's your show. It's your conversation on your station usually. But that brings me to the fact that we're not broadcasting live this morning on CKLU. They are updating computers and doing things to the internet and things at Laurentian University, because CKLU is our campus and community radio station in Sudbury, which basically falls under the umbrella of Laurentian University. It's located, they are kind enough to offer a space for CKLU in the old Telegraph building, which is part of the new MacEwan School of Architecture, all part of Laurentian University. And so we're grateful to that partnership. But today they're doing some updates. And so with that, we're not broadcasting the way we would normally do. I'm not even sure if they're on the air or not due to these upgrades, but definitely it makes it so that way we're not able to broadcast anyways a live show. They might have something on a playlist playing. We're not sure. But it is what it is, and you are here with us, and we're grateful for that, and we're going to have a great show regardless. It's going to be weather, sports, news headlines, local and abroad, anything that's going on we'll be talking about. And make sure to share your thoughts and feelings about what we're talking about. Be part of the conversation. This is your show. I'm just the facilitator of it, and glad to be here and be part of this. And it's going on. It'll be 2 years that we were doing Sudbury News. I think this May, it'll be 2 years. So we were doing Sudbury Sports Talk since 2017, but this has been going on for 2 years, and a lot of you were with us for most of this ride. So continue to do that, and we'll continue to try to keep this bus rolling. And with that, let's just roll on into some weather and sports, and we'll get the show on the road. We'll be back right after this. Stick with us. It's going to be a great show. You don't see this every day this winter, but it currently is minus 20 degrees Celsius. It feels like near minus 30. So minus 29 is what it feels like. It is clear. I can attest to that so far. Today, a mix of sun and cloud, however. 30% chance of flurries in the afternoon. And the high will be plus 1. Yeah, that's what it says. High will be plus 1. Wind chill minus 27 in the morning. That's what we get here sometimes, is the most drastic of drastic changes in the weather. It's minus 30 with the wind chill, but it's going to be plus 1 today. Tonight, partly cloudy. Low of minus 3, wind chill near minus 8. And then tomorrow, cloudy, 30% chance of rain tomorrow. Or flurries or drizzle in the afternoon. The wind becoming gusting to 40 kilometers per hour in the morning. High of plus 2. Wind chill minus 8 in the morning. And again, look at your 6-day forecast. 30% probability of rain or flurries tomorrow, plus 2. And chance of flurries on Thursday, high of plus 4. 30% chance of flurries. 60% chance of flurries on Friday, high of minus 7. And then Saturday, mix of sun and cloud, minus 9. And then plus 1 on Sunday, 60% chance of flurries. And 0 on Monday, mix of sun and clouds. So you got a very mixed bag, other than today feeling like it normally would this time of year, minus 30 with the wind chill. We're going to go back to the more milder temperatures going forward, and possibility of rain. So here you go. That's a look at your satellite. You got your clearing there, and cloud cover moving on, and they're saying some cloud cover will develop as we get mix of sun and clouds. So that's your Sudbury weather, and it's brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. Be back with a little bit of sports. Sudbury Wolves and Sudbury 5 were in action all weekend long, and yeah. So here you go. We'll be back with that and much more right after this. Okay, so your Sudbury 5, remember that game they had where I think it was Windsor just walked off the court? And it was forfeited. Sudbury 5 won. And then they played, I believe it was on Saturday, and lost. And then they played the great family day at the Sudbury Arena, all day long, family day. Everyone was having a great time. Well, the Sudbury 5 won that game as well. And they won't be in action, though, until I think it's next Saturday, February the 24th, in Sudbury at 7 o'clock, the tip-off. And then, is it Saturday? Yeah, Saturday. And then Sunday as well for the afternoon game. They're going to be playing Jamestown. Both games here in town. 2 games against Jamestown Jackals. 7 o'clock on Saturday and 2 o'clock on Sunday. Also in action were your Sudbury Wolves, and they won their game in town against the Saginaw Spirit. It was a great game, 6-3 we won. And then on Sunday, they played against the Kitchener Rangers and lost that game against Kitchener, 6-1. And then yesterday, still on the road against Guelph, won the game 4-1. So they are currently sitting on top of the Eastern Conference by, I think they're tied with Brantford, but they because of the way the point system works, they are still on top. They got a couple teams nipping at their heels just below them. Oh no, they're tied with North Bay, or North Bay is like 1 point behind them, something like that. Anyways, I can get that information actually right now. So why don't I do that? Oh no, I don't have that information in front of me. But anyways, it's them, North Bay neck and neck, and there's a couple other teams, the Brantford Bulldogs and Mississauga Steelheads nipping at their heels. So anyways, that's your Sudbury Sports, brought to you by SudburySports.ca. Basically it's a sports news aggregator that works on our news aggregator website, Sudbury.news. And so all things Sudbury Sports, you can visit that. Or if you want really great information on Sudbury Sports all across the board, whether it's high school sports, any kind of amateur sports, including, and then up to the Sudbury Wolves, Sudbury 5, visit SudburySports.com, which is Randy Pascal's website. And he's an amazing sports writer. So if you want to do more deep dives into sports, that's your place to go. So that's your Sudbury Sports, brought to you by SudburySports.ca. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and much more right after this. Okay, so we got quite a few people joining us already this morning. Thanks for being with us. And as you know, we did not have a show yesterday. It was Family Day. And I thought maybe some people might not have got the message. And I should have put a post up telling people that, but I didn't. And so my apologies for that. If you're expecting a show yesterday and it wasn't there. Judy, first to the Facebook party. Appreciate that. Thanks for having us in your home via the internet each and every weekday morning. And Monique, good morning. Sudbury, smiley face emoji, much appreciated. Same to you. And Maurice, good morning. Same thing, smiley emoji. Every bit of positivity goes a long way. First thing in the morning for sure. Denise, good morning. Everyone, stay safe and healthy. And same to you. Denise says, sending blessings from us in Ontario. Have a great morning. Yes, usually it's Espanola, but it's we've graduated to Ontario now, which Espanola is in Ontario. Belinda usually has a really great positive statement each and every morning. Good morning. Never be a prisoner of your past. It was just a lesson, not a life sentence. You're here for a reason. Remember that always. Thank you very much. And that is true. We make mistakes to learn from them, and we don't make mistakes to beat ourselves up our whole lives over the mistakes, although that is a tendency a lot of us have to do with our mistakes. It's a matter of putting them in perspective, realizing the fact that you realize you made a mistake is great. So that's wow. If you go, yeah, I should have done this better. That's a miracle. A lot of people go around not realizing they've made mistakes, and that's when it becomes a problem, and they'll continue to do those mistakes, and they don't learn from them. But if you've realized it, it's you should celebrate that, not beat yourself up, and maybe do what you can to make the situation better, or at least make yourself better, and that's all you can do. So thank you very much for that, Belinda. It was very great. Positive sentiment to start the day. Monique, good day, everyone. Thank you, Monique. Hopefully you're having a great day as well. Jess, good morning. Hope you're having a good morning. The Minnow Lake Can is tomorrow, February the 21st, 7 p.m. Public meeting, 1127 Bancroft Drive. Last door on the left of the Minnow Lake Place. First meeting of the year. Perfect time to join. Facebook.com/Minnow Lake Can. CAN. Thank you very much, Jess. And thanks for serving your community within the community, Minnow Lake within Sudbury. Monique, super weird weather. LOL. Yeah, it was weird weather over the weekend, wasn't it? Weird weather as I was working on my assignments for my school. Looking out the window and just seeing the wind going every which way but loose. There's all different patterns of wind. Weird. Yeah. And then it would snow, and then the sun was out while it's snowing. The sun, and then it was like cleared up. So it was like cloudy all day, and then as soon as sun starts going down, it dissipates and clear skies. It's just weird. Anyways, we know that it's get some weird weather and possible reasons for it. So Liette, good morning from Collingwood. Thanks for being with us. And Denise says public meeting is there on agenda to this, why they're having the meeting, what it's about, just interested, asking questions. Okay. Good morning, Monique from Barrie. Thanks for joining us. Liked and shared as usual, and thank you very much for that, Marianne. Jerome, good morning, and a beautiful one at that. Nice to be on surface for a day. I would say so. Even though we had some interesting weather, you don't notice the weather when you're underground. It's always the same, usually. I think this is Jesse from YouTube. Hello, everyone, and good morning to you. Marianne. Oh, yes, that's right, too. Liked and shared. Canada. This is Denise going along like nothing's going on, and watching the U.S. arm up and other countries teaching their children also to fight back. And there we are in Canada. Everything's okay. We're all right. All's good on fiberglassed. So it's all good on fiberglassed by our country. Just reading your comment word for word there. I can kind of see what you mean up until the last sentence there. But yeah, no, for sure. Canadians, by and large, we're usually apathetic. We're apathetic in Canada. You know, it's hard to shake us up and get us to do something. And that's why the convoy was so interesting of a thing to have happen. And the anniversary of it just celebrated this last weekend in Ottawa. We'll have a little bit more from David Craden on that. He has his podcast, Stand on Guard. And I just thought he was covering it, you know, better than I've seen so far with anyone else that I've come across. And I thought I would share a little segment of his a little bit later on as our deep dive today on the anniversary of the Freedom Convoy and what's a little bit of updates of what's going on with that, because you won't hear much in the mainstream media about it. Evelyn, good morning. Thanks for being with us on Facebook. Hope you're having a good morning. Marianne says, sure is nippy outside, but wow, the sun is out. Yes, it's usually a trade-off. And Penny, good morning. Need help from mental help and communities getting out of mistakes like our drug and homeless population. Yeah, speaking of mistakes, sometimes we can do mistakes as a society, make mistakes as a society, along with being individual, whether, you know. So it's important to recognize that. As you look back in history, there's been many mistakes made by societies, far and wide, depending on the time, period, the location, geographically, all over the place. As we study history, we know there's been mistakes made. And good to learn from those mistakes. And if we don't, then we're doomed to repeat those same mistakes over again. So it's good to understand your history and know what is possible, so that way we don't repeat it again. Marianne, people need to follow Maggie Braun. Yes, she's a warrior, and that indeed she is. I do follow her. She Gather 2030 is something that she put me on to as well. I have the newsletter with that. I wanted to share. I have a video to share. Again, I collect these videos, ready to share them on these deep dives and stuff, and then they accumulate. If we don't have time to get to some of them or whatever, maybe it's just my show management. I have to get better and tighten up on it. It is what it is. But anyways, I have a video from Maggie I wanted to share. So, Evelyn back on YouTube, freezing up on Facebook. Wonder why. There's no reason over on this end for it to be freezing. We haven't mentioned anything the Facebookians had to worry about us talking about either. So I'm not sure what's happening there. But thanks for making the transition. It's a good thing we have the two platforms. Denise, when the natives are upset at the government, what do the natives do? They don't go to Ottawa. I don't know. I thought I did see during the convoy, I thought I saw every culture there, including Indigenous peoples there as well. And I saw a speech just recently from this weekend, or maybe it was this week at least, in Ottawa. There's a little crowd there, about 100 people. And this guy was giving a really great motivational kind of speech. And he was saying how there was one Indigenous person in Ottawa and how all they were doing was beating a drum. And he said, basically, we all got to do what we can do. We think we don't make an influence, but this person was there just beating his drum. And then everybody was it was like the heartbeat of the whole thing. It kind of set the tone, and you knew why he was beating his drum, because he was supporting the idea of standing up for things that are important, and rights are the most fundamental important thing there is in the world. If you don't agree with that, then I don't know. It's really at the heart of everything. If you don't have your own rights, then what kind of life do you have, really? If the government's always just granting you privileges, and you're allowed to do something, you're not allowed to do something. I mean, other than laws, like you need laws that protect people, and we do have those. We've had those for years. But rights and laws go hand in hand, and laws should be there to preserve rights, not to take them away. As we see new laws being made that actually take away people's rights in the name of giving other people protection and safety, we're losing our rights, and it's the rights of those they're saying they're protecting their safety. They're going to lose their rights as well, and they don't realize that, but it is what it is. It's a Trojan horse. But you need to stand up, and this one person just beating the drum, being there, supporting it, was their way of doing something they knew how to do to be part of it. Jesse said, I'd like to give a kind welcome to our newest Ukrainian refugees. That is in the news, by the way. Yes. Thanks for sharing that. I'm going to get to that in a few moments. If a mistake was accompanied by money, I have no forgiveness for you. None. Okay. Yeah, I guess there's forgivable mistakes, unforgivable mistakes. I don't know exactly. But I do know there are mistakes that cause more harm than others. There's no doubt about it. Evelyn says, Freedom Convoy just made an announcement that they are now filing civil lawsuits against the Emergencies Act being invoked. That is true. And David Creighton will talk a little bit more about that. Trevor, as usual, sharing a lot of valuable information here. And it looks like a story, a poem, basically entitled The Man Who Wanted to Be Left Alone. So have a read on that one. Thanks again, Trevor. And any links that you have that you share are more than welcome, encouraged to be shared here amongst the group. Evelyn says, holding all involved for allowing the act at all and wants accountability. Yes, for sure. We need accountability in order to maintain a lawful society where our rights are at the fundamental foundation of the law of our society. And if there's no accountability, it's all for naught. So continue to share, everyone. We will have more on Ottawa after the local headlines here. We just go through them real briefly. just get a taste of what's going on locally, and then we'll have a little deep dive today into Ottawa and all that was the Freedom Convoy anniversary. Shirley, good morning. Wishing you a beautiful and sunny day. Same to you. And yeah, much appreciated, guys. Keep the comments coming. It's that's why we have this show. It's your show. So if I'm not able to read them all, because then there'd be no other content on the show, I'll get them up on the screen, and they'll be in the comments as well. This is interesting here, coming out of Sudbury.com this morning. This is from our news aggregator, Sudbury.news. See here. It says visa cap, frozen tuition creating post-secondary turmoil. Laurentian president tells University Senate not only have the feds put a cap on international students, the province has been reluctant to make an announcement on funding for colleges and universities. So yes, it's they are struggling. And political statement too, by the way, there, because the feds are basically how the universities will align themselves with the particular political parties that are in power, the Uniparty, the NDP Liberal Party, it's in power right now. Universities and their administration and pretty much most of the professors there align themselves politically with those people. So it can't be the feds' fault that they would ever be failing, because they don't bite the hand that feeds you. But they can now take it to the Ontario powers that be and blame them, kind of thing, right? So they say it's because the province has not announced how they're going to fund colleges and universities, so that way they don't have to be fiscally responsible. They can just continue to take taxpayers' money and don't have to run their establishments like businesses. Like most of socialist societies get everything from the government, and they don't have to be self-reliant and run themselves. They rely on the government way too much, and that's what it is. They're saying, yeah, in order for us to be successful, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to give us this, you need to give us that. We don't need to tighten things up. We don't need to look at a business model and make sure we're doing a good job and people actually want to come to our school and function that way. We talk about that at length on this show. It is what it is. So yes, Ukrainian mother and son flee the war and settle in Sudbury is what Jesse was talking about. So they're here behind a good job in Ukraine to give her son a chance for a better life in Canada. She left a good job in Ukraine. Good luck with that one, possibly. Our country isn't on the rise, let's say that. So you may have been better off with a good job in Ukraine, sad to say, than trying to make a go of things here. Although our country does make provisions and help new Canadians, more than they do people who've lived in Canada their whole lives. And there's many programs they have that new Canadians can access, and Canadians cannot. Those that have been born here. So let's see, is there anything else going on? A new play is about to debut at Place des Arts. That's coming from CTV Northern Ontario. You can check that out. Anyone can make a short movie on their phone. Film workshop to be held February 24th at the Hilton Hotel. So there you go. Wow, when is that? February 24th. 4 days from now? I would think that would be like Saturday. Hilton Hotel. That's pretty cool. You can make movies right from your phone if you're interested in that kind of thing. Check that out. And that comes from the Sudbury Star. More information on that just by looking at the Sudbury Star's story there. any more local news? We're just looking here. And we'll head over to Sudbury.com for the morning stories to start your day. Along with Laurentian University saying they need the province to basically give them more funds, they have also approved their new 5-year strategic plan, which doesn't include the province, obviously, because the province hasn't made any announcements of how they are going to fund universities. Good morning, Brian. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for being on. Hope you're having a good morning. So with no fanfare, Laurentian University's Board of Governors approved the university's 2024 to 2029 5-year strategic plan entitled Laurentian's Plan for Connection, Innovation, and Impact during their February 16th meeting. You can view the 22-page strategic plan document online through Sudbury.com. That's the ones that have the story on it. Through the board's package materials, through the board's package materials. Laurentian second governing body, its Senate, already endorsed the strategic plan earlier this week. At the February 13th meeting, the document was approved by the Board of Governors without comments from any members. Laurentian has also not yet issued a news release announcing the plan's approval. The university communications staff saying this will come this week. However, this was far from the first time the governing body had seen the document. The draft strategic plan was on the agenda for its December meeting as well. Chris Loretto, managing principal of Strategic Corp, the consultant that helped Laurentian craft its strategic plan, said the document is similar to the document presented to the board just before Christmas break and just looks a lot prettier now. Looks a lot prettier now. All right, remember we did the story, we're just wondering what those gates were doing, on York Street. And Mike Parent was on and he said he was going to look into it. He might have. It might have led to a story from Sudbury.com covering it. Gates are in the process of being installed at the 2 gravel parking lots on York Street outside of Bell Park to limit access during the winter months. They've sparked curiosity online, particularly among the so-called Freedom Convoy movement. So when will these reporters actually just do news in town? Come on. The so-called Freedom Convoy movement. It's like saying the so-called Black Lives Matter movement, the so-called LGBTQ2S plus movement, the so-called Prime Minister of Canada. Like what? Why do you have to insert your biases into your news? It's okay. You can call them the Freedom Convoy movement. It's fine. You can do that. It's fine. They don't mind that. I'm speaking for they, like they have a spokesperson or something and it's me at the moment. It's not, but I know enough about bias and enough about movements and things to see you don't do that for other causes or other movements. Why do you do it to this one? Use the same ruler. Be the same journalist that you're supposed to be. Writing stories unbiasedly. You don't have to put so-called or quotations around things just to make a point. You're not there to make a point. You're there to deliver facts, right? But thanks for doing your job. But I'm going to point out when you put bias into your work, it just is what it is. Since the group meets at the parking lot every weekend to have Canadian flags and to wave Canadian flags and signs. So that's what you do, guys. You meet there to wave Canadian flags and signs. Reporters connected with the City Leisure Services Director, Jeff Pafford, for clarification on why the gates are being installed. The gates have been installed to limit access during the winter months, he explained, noting the city's approved service level is to have one of the parking lots partially open in the winter. The gates are similar to those installed throughout the municipality, including at nearby parking lot outside the old St. Joe's Hospital building, which is similarly closed during the winter. They will be open in the spring when service levels dedicate the parking lots are both in service. They will also be open for major events on weekends, which require parking. Well, there you go. We can be satisfied now that we know why the gates are being put up on York Street. A statement from the city clarifies that. All right, anyways, so about the so-called Freedom Convoy movement or whatever, they had a so-called anniversary get-together in so-called Ottawa, where they so-called, they're having a so-called civil litigation suit against the so-called government of so-called Canada, right? So let's, David Creighton has a so-called podcast, and so he's so-called going to talk about this particular so-called movement. Might as well just check in with him, and we'll be back with more on that as soon as I can get to him, having to close all of these because it makes it so I can't even open the darn thing. There you go. Now we got it. Now he'll take it from here. We'll be back right after this.
To do a little retrospective, because Valentine's Day was last week, right? And that was the second anniversary of Trudeau, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, invoking the War Measures Act, the Emergencies Act against the Freedom Convoy. He chose Valentine's Day to do that. I mean, and that was just so illustrative, so symbolic of how ironic this whole episode was in Canadian history. Here's this guy bringing down the full force of the police and the state against peaceful protests, freezing bank accounts. This is just unheard of in a democracy, supposed democracy. So last week was the second anniversary. And of course, they had a weekend get together of some of the original participants. And we're going to be discussing that in a minute. But I think it's significant to say, because you probably don't even know this, but there is a lawsuit or lawsuits from 20 of the leading participants of the Freedom Convoy against the Trudeau government. Now, I did a story on this last week for the Post Millennial, and focusing, of course, on Tamara Leach and Chris Barber. Every member of this group, of the 20 that are suing the Trudeau government, are asking for $2 million each. Not $2 million for the whole lawsuit, $2 million each. Now that seems pretty fair to me when you consider they are the focus of a $300 million lawsuit from people downtown Ottawa who are whining about there being a little more exhaust in the air, the honking, yes, and all of that. I cannot believe a judge allowed this thing to continue, but it has. So, but if you haven't heard about this lawsuit against the Trudeau government, don't be surprised, because it's not been covered by the mainstream media. And here's the suit from the people who are filed from Alberta, people who have filed from Ontario. This is very significant. This is very significant because what have they got in their favor right now? The recognition from a federal judge that the invocation of the Emergencies Act was illegal, improper, unreasonable, unconstitutional, should never have happened. So I would say These Freedom Convoy participants have the full force and weight of the law on their side. So we will see what happens and how the Trudeau government and its underlings and its dark underside tries to obfuscate, tries to hide, tries to minimize all of this legal activity. And you know they will. You know they will. So this will be interesting to see. But of course, there was a bit of a reunion this weekend. And I want to show a brief clip from a news conference that was covered by CPAC. And I'll tell you why this is significant in a minute.
So tomorrow, Saturday, the 17th, starting at 11 a.m., there's a permit issued on Parliament Hill. So most of our activities will be on Parliament Hill. That begins at 11. There's some music. We're hoping to have speeches around probably noon. And then the planned march is at 2 p.m. So we've been working with Ottawa Police to figure out a route for that. There are some other things going on in the city. It's the final weekend of Winterlude this weekend, and there's also some other planned protests. So the parade or the march route isn't exactly finalized yet, but we're working with Ottawa Police to make sure that that's going to go off okay. And then we're back to the Hill after the march till about 5 o'clock probably.
What can you?
Now, why is this significant that CPAC would cover this news conference? Because there's a dawning realization amongst the mainstream media that the Freedom Convoy participants were really treated shabbily by the Trudeau government. It's taken them a while to get to that point. It's taken them a while even to say Freedom Convoy, to write Freedom Convoy without putting quotation marks around it. Like this is really their way of being condescending. It has been. But I tell you, transformation has taken place because not only was this federal court decision very significant and very visceral on the mainstream media, but those members of the mainstream media that have been covering the Freedom Convoy trial of Tamara Leach and Chris Barber, as I have when it first started, believe it or not, way back in September after the Labor Day weekend, their opinion, the opinions in the mainstream media have gradually begun to soften. And they've begun to understand what the Freedom Convoy was all about. While they've watched the evidence compiled by the prosecution, which really has not helped the prosecution's case at all, but has in fact confirmed everything the Freedom Convoy lawyers and participants have said from day one, that this was a peaceful protest and that they encouraged everybody to peacefully protest, to listen to the orders and instructions of the police, to not go out of their way to harass or bother the residents of Ottawa. The evidence played in video and audio format by the prosecution again and again and again confirmed that. I don't know what they were trying to prove, honestly. And I sat there for 90% of it, and I'll be back in March when the defense finally begins its case. Ridiculous that a trial on mischief charges would be going on after all of these months. But that's beside the point. It's interesting that I have seen reporters who were hostile to the Freedom Convoy initially have become increasingly not so hostile, almost positive, as they have listened to the testimony and they have interviewed the Freedom Convoy lawyers. Very, very evident to me. So when I see Chris Dacey, who does a bang-up job capturing a lot of video that mainstream media outlets don't bother to get, and I've used Chris's work on this broadcast, happily thanked him for it, sometimes reimbursed him for it, because he does great work. But when I see CPAC interviewing Chris Dacey, I know something's changed. Something has changed. There seems to be cracks in the establishment. In the establishment in this country that has allowed Justin Trudeau to get away with authoritarian government, that has allowed him to freeze bank accounts, that allows him to invoke the Emergencies Act. When the federal court said no, he went too far, I believe there's been a shift. At the same time, you see the institutions in this country continue to support woke politics. Here's my column from last Saturday in the Epoch Times saying the politicization of our key institution pushing woke ideology is unsettling. Now, specifically what I talk about in this column is how the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, CSIS, has admitted they're going after people opposing gender ideology. And that includes parents who don't think their 12-year-olds should be having sex changes, should be receiving puberty blockers, should be chemically castrated, and should change their pronouns without even telling their parents. The Epoch Times thinks the CSIS thinks these people, these parents are now a security threat. Now that has to stop. So I encourage you to read my column about this in the Epoch Times because it's significant. Because this is exactly what has happened in the United States, where the Biden administration has used the FBI and the Department of Justice to harass and penalize parents who object to what their children are being taught in schools. The FBI specifically targeted parents who went to school board meetings to oppose critical race theory in the classrooms.
And that's not the only thing they've done south of the border, and that's not the only thing we've done north of the U.S. border here in Canada. It's weaponizing and politicizing and weaponizing government institutions for political purposes. If you don't believe in something political ideology, the governing body, whoever's in power at the time, can use those organizations like CSIS against its own citizens, right? And when you see that starting to happen, which we've seen it happening, like he gave one example, but there's also, you look in the United States, they're trying to put an incumbent, a former president who's now who wants to run again, they want to put him in jail. It's like that's what they do in communist countries, totalitarian dictatorships. They put their opponents in jail. They just do. And so that's what you're seeing here as well. So these are the reasons why there's a so-called freedom convoy in the first place. It wasn't just against mandates. It's against all of the things that take away and you're already eroding freedoms that you've been, that our grandparents, great-grandparents fought for in wars, so that way we can have rights. And if we don't learn from history, we'll have to repeat the same mistakes. And unfortunately, I think that's what boat we're in. But it is what it is. And then the show is done. So another day, another show. We'll be back, hopefully same time, same place tomorrow. And also be on CKLU 96.7 FM. So with that, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. Stay safe. Take care. Make sure to like and share. And we'll be back with you same time tomorrow. So have a good one, everyone. And ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.